Welcome to the Velero community meeting. This is for November 28th, 2023. Orland's not able to join today, so I'll be leading. Go ahead and if you haven't already, add your name to the attendee list. And if you have any status updates or discussion topics. Daniel, I think you've got a status update here.
Generally we are working towards the FC of version 1.13 of Velero. Originally we plan to reach the FC by the end of the week, but due to the acquisition, the deal was closed last week and there's some overhead this week. We are required to do some training from Broadcom, and there may be some change in the email address, and it's install a lot of softwares on the laptop, so we may be impacted by that, and there's some PRs still under review, so it may be delayed for a few days. And I think eventually we still want to make sure it can GA in January next year before the Chinese New Year. That's the status, general status. Thanks.
Okay. Tiger.
Hi. So my design got some approval, so I'm working on the implementation this week, and
thank you.
Yep. Hope to have it up.
But that design, I think Shubham used to require some change in that PR.
Yeah.
Do we still need that, or it's okay? We just move on and merge it.
I thought it's addressed, but I can check with Shubham.
Okay.
Yep.
So Shubham, sorry, is he available this week in the office?
He's in India, so.
Oh, okay.
And he's on PTO today, and I think tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. I think that PR had because Shubham had requested changes. I think the changes were made, but I don't think Shubham's had a chance to review them since those changes were made. I think that's where the PR was when I looked at it yesterday. So I don't know if that's something, if we're confident that the changes or I would say it's a design PR. Go ahead and start the implementation, but we'll give Shubham a chance when he gets back later in the week to review it and merge that. Guessing at this point that's not going to change much in your early implementation work anyway, but obviously we won't merge the implementation until the design's approved, but that should be pretty quick to do once Shubham is back and available.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, and Anshul?
Yeah, mostly just status updates, bug fixes, PR reviews, and the third one is the feature that we added around recovering from backups and resources which are in waiting conditions when the Velero pod restarts. So 3 things just to call out. Nothing much to discuss.
I was out of last week, so I don't really have much of an update. I did just do some PR reviews, but that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and move on to discussion topics.
So I have a question for you, Scott. So,
Sure,
there's an issue for you to work on the end-to-end test for the BIA and RAV2. We discussed internally. I don't think that's a blocker for FC, but because the FC, after the FC, we still, we will cut the branch after we do some initial tests and create the RC1 tag. So I just want to check about your plan. Will you have some time in December to close out that issue?
I think I should have time in December to work on that. Okay. So it's been a while because I got doing other stuff for a while, but at this point I think I should be able to work on that. Okay, so let's go on some discussion topics. Michael, I guess you've got one.
Yes, I have a topic to the experts from VMware probably. I was trying to get Velero with vSphere up and running without CSI. So this got me to the point where I discovered that a lot of blocks are needed to get this working, such as the VMware requires few clusters to be running, like guest cluster, supervisor cluster. Then on the supervisor cluster, there is a need for installing Velero operator,
Yeah.
and so on. So I wonder if there were any considerations to design this actually without running to the supervisor cluster with the operator, with a special driver there, just from the guest Kubernetes or cluster that allows basically to copy data into S3 storage and restore it later on. And why it's such a complex beast in short.
Yeah. I mean, the reason that plugin was designed with such level of complexity is that it has to support supervisor cluster. I believe because by the way, that plugin was not maintained by the Velero team in VMware. That's maintained by the vSphere team, who essentially is in another BU. We have regular meetings. I have relatively little knowledge about it, but I believe there's some a permission issue between guest cluster and supervisor cluster. So if you want to take snapshot on the guest cluster of a volume, you need to somehow relay the request to the supervisor cluster, and there's a lot of magic there. And go back to your question in the HackMD, I think the plugin supports the scenario where the setup without supervisor cluster, and it has the capability to call vCenter's API to take snapshot directly and transfer the snapshot to the object storage. But I'm not sure in the latest version whether it has dropped the support for the CNS driver and focus on CSI. That one I'm not very sure. So I would suggest you to open an issue in that repo, because that's also open source, and I can follow up, and in our next interlock meeting with the vSphere plugin developer, we can highlight this issue and ask him or her to reply and give you more details. Would that work?
Sure. And do you know like what level of testing is being done for this plugin? What type of setup? Because I was really
Yeah.
the vSphere with supervisor cluster up and running.
But I believe we have done some very limited tests with vSphere plugin in a downstream product, but that still rely on the internal tool to provision we call it Tanzu Kubernetes grid, and that's a very opinionated setup with the CSI driver, I believe. So I'm not sure what problem you are trying to solve. So
I'm trying basically to get this working with OpenShift and with the plugin running on the vSphere cluster.
okay, so yeah,
without CSI, with CSI it would be such a different story, and without CSI it's getting pretty complex. And
I think the code in the vSphere plugin should support that, but to be honest, because that's the product, and I don't think anyone has tested with OpenShift clusters, but I think there has been some tests performed on the vanilla Kubernetes by other team. I think that's all I know. So for the details, you may wanna open an issue and ask directly with to the plugin developer. But unfortunately, because that involves the VMware product, I'm not sure how much information can be shared, but I'll try to follow up.
And is there any Slack channel dedicated to this plugin or to the talks? Because you mentioned that there are some calls with VMware, but is there any Slack channel to that is open to public and to the community?
No, that is not. I believe that's internal.
Okay.
Even if there's, I don't think there's anything on Kubernetes Slack, but there's a public repo, and you can open an issue.
Yeah,
I think that's nothing preventing you from opening an issue, and I can try to ping the developer to answer that. But whether they can share, all the information, that I cannot be sure.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Scott. For this one, yeah, I think I'm not sure whether we should restore namespace as a regular item, but yeah, I was trying to limited the change and focus on the problem described in the original issue. So I would suggest we merge this one if that won't cause any regression, and if we still think restoring namespace as a regular item is a goal for Velero, we can track it in another issue. What do you think? Because I think the challenge is that ensure NS exists, that chunk of code is to create a namespace without any namespace collected as backup item in the backup. So that's why it's still there. I mean, maybe we can figure out a way to get rid of that, but I think that should be an issue to be tracked.
Okay. And I was a little bit, Joe, I was just slightly confused because the title was suggesting regular item, and when I read through the related issue, one of the comments posted was suggesting one of the reasons they wanted to do this was to allow, backup item actions and restore item actions to work on namespaces. And it looks like, I guess your PR does some of that, but not all of it. So because you're still using that ensure namespace exists code, that'll create it without those actions. And then when it calls restore item on it, it'll check the map and say, oh, this is already restored, and then exit. But I think it does. It does accomplish what the original issue called for, which is, oh, my namespace was empty, and so nothing restored it. This will do that because it'll actually call restore item on it, and then but the actual creation is during that ensure exists and is ready.
Right.
Part. So, okay. So yeah, I think this certainly. And then again, we can discuss whether we have a use case that needs backup item actions or restore item actions on namespaces or not. And if we do, then we can make further changes later that will kind of ensure. Because I think the change needed to do that is probably not huge. Basically, I think that part where we call the ensure namespace and it's ready, if the item is a namespace itself, we might just skip that block. And if you skip that block, it'll go into restore item, and then it should just work. But again, like you said, I think this PR is probably good as is because it minimizes changes, and then we can make that as a follow-on change. That makes sense to me.
Yep. Yeah, because every time I make change in the restore workflow, I was very, concerned because there's a lot of magic. So yeah, we want to be very careful. That's why I also ask you to take a look, make sure there's no regression. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'll comment on the review again, but I think if as long as we don't need that goal of also making item actions work on restore, I think it's good as is because I was checking the workflow and looking at the code and the PR, and it looks like everything's going to do the expected thing, with the exception of the item actions.
Yes, and there are two issues. Hopefully, I can get someone from US to take a look. First one is adding the sparse option in the backups back. But that's still a work in progress.
Yep.
I think that's originally proposed by Cloud Gaza. So has Ming work with you guys?
Yeah.
For the
Hi,
review. Okay.
Hi, this is Raghu. Yeah, I looked at this and thanks for doing this. I know we proposed to do it, but we never got around to doing it.
Yeah.
So I had a few comments. I mean, it looks like the changes were made to the backup as well, but I thought this option is only for restore.
Yes.
But if you see this description, right? This is actually talking about backup.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, we had some discussion with Ming earlier this week. I think we clarified that because originally he was thinking we can reuse the data structure and provide certain options to backup and restore and share them. But for whether the sparse is needed for backup, I believe he mentioned that it's also needed for backup. Is that the only comment you have? I mean,
no, I have other things, but I quickly checked the Copia documentation. They don't have anything like this for backup, unless I missed something.
Okay, so yeah, I'll follow up with Ming. I think I in my memory I also recall that you guys mentioned that the sparse should only work for restore, but I think he and Lyndon they all say that we'll also need that for backup in some way. So I can double check with them. Yeah, and we can continue
that would be good. I mean,
discussion.
if they can give some pointer to the Copia documentation, that'll be good. I mean, what happens is during the backup, Copia already has this dedupe, right? So I think they think that it takes care of sparse files because they'll be empty blocks. So as far as yesterday I checked the documentation, this write sparse files option is only listed for restore. It was not there, at least it's not listed in the backup at all.
Okay.
The other thing I have is I think one is the name of the option, but that's no big deal. I just thought a simpler option like just sparse would be better instead of long option, right? Sparse files, but it's no big deal. One way or another.
Yeah, you can let us know the opinion because we always argue, when naming things because we are not native speaker and sometimes we are all confused. That's why
I
this
did
one.
Give this comment here. Yeah, this is the comment just to keep this simple, right? I mean, there are so many options that longer they are, it gets difficult, tricky.
Yeah, but I think Ming's comment also makes sense here, right? I mean, that's aligned with the flag naming with Copia. So.
Right. I mean, this is support for restrict also, right? So I mean, in a sense, you can argue either way. But whatever is good in long term, I'm fine with. Yeah. One other comment I had here is the restore CR documentation in the API types, right? In the Velero documentation, that needs to be updated because we are adding fields in the restore CR, so the corresponding document needs to be updated.
Yeah. I think we'll make sure that that's also addressed. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
As long as you guys are and the last one also we need some help. Is we're adding the data mover info in backups described the same issue. We were not sure if the wording or layout is proper, in native speaker side. So I would like to know you guys suggestion and opinion. So I see Shadi already.
I had one question about this, not about the wording, but one thing I noticed was looking at this is that and this is more a question. This may be a question more not so much on the describe, but on the structures that we're looking at. Is that, for example, for CSI without data movement, we get a snapshot size here, and for data movement, we're not tracking that. We're not showing that. I wonder whether, since the data movement does come from a CSI, I know whether we still want to have that snapshot size
added. I believe the reason is that it's not the actual size in the backup repo because
if there is the restore size, that's the size of the PVC you need to restore to. Is what that represents. So it's not how much size, it's not how much storage you're taking up in the back, in the repo, because again, with the dedupe and all that, it's going to be smaller. But it gives you the size of the volume that you're going to restore to. So I don't know how useful that is. I mean, if you look at the PVC in the backup, I guess you'll get the same information. But so that's not a
so
huge
have you
issue.
posted that comment in this?
Oh, I did. I don't think I was going to post it. I think I did not post the comment there. I can ask about that, but because yeah, sorry, they didn't post the comment because I realized the describe was just pulling from the backup volume data, the structs, and so the data movement struct doesn't have size there. So if we were going to add size to data movement, that wouldn't just be a describe change; it would be a change to those as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, but I think user will still have this information from the CSI snapshot, right?
Yeah, well, the CSI snapshot, because we actually so the backup itself, I guess, won't have that for data movement, but they will have that information in the PVC backup because the snapshot size is really just going to be the same size as the PVC request, I guess. But I just think the way we're doing the describe here, or are we going to show the CSI snapshots? Yeah, because it'll show in the data movement case we just show this, but if it was CSI without data movement, you would get all of this. So
yeah.
Or if you're doing data movement, do you get that CSI snapshot information and the data movement, or was it either or?
I need to double check. I don't remember it very clearly. We discussed it very earlier. I can double check, but I think yeah, it would be helpful if you can leave a comment here, and yeah, that's easier.
Okay.
Follow up. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'll add a comment there.
I have one question here. I remember that the CSS snapshot details were being shown in describe only if a client config was set earlier, right? There is a client parameter for that. Is that still the case, or these details are always shown?
Can you repeat your question, sorry?
Yeah, I remember that there is a client-side config parameter to show the CSI information in describe output. It was not shown by default. No. I don't know if that is still the case, or we show it every time.
It is, because that's not part of the backup CR. That's part of other metadata in the gzip file stored in the object store. So under the hood, Velero will submit a download request to download the file separately and combine the message.
Oh, we're talking about the details flag?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that flag also is needed to show the the item list from the backup tarball as well. Again, without that flag, we're just mostly getting backup CR information. With that flag, we're pulling in more information.
No, I'm not sorry. Actually, I don't mean the details. I'm just trying to look for that. There is a Velero client config set command, and there is a specific config. I mean, the client side configuration that one has to set to see the CSI volume details. Let me. I mean, we can talk about other things. I'm quickly looking at my notes. I can tell you exactly the flag.
Yeah, probably that's true, because in our test we always install and use Velero client on the same machine, but at that side we will always turn on the enable CSI feature flag.
Yeah, this is the client config set features equal to enable CSI.
So could you open an issue and so we can follow up? I think that may be so essentially your scenario is user A is doing the backup and user B without any feature flag set, using Velero CLI to show the CSI information.
Yeah,
is that
actually
your use case?
Right. No. My point is that we should show the CSI information every time somebody does backup describe details, right? It shouldn't really have to be dependent on some client config set. So this actual command is Velero client config set features equal to enable CSI. Unless
that may be something.
Command, right? You don't see this. I mean, at least the CSI snapshot.
Yeah, but the reason for this is, I mean, maybe historically, they made the decision to, you know, control the feature for CSS snapshot as a flag. So that's the,
I mean, that's the feature flag we need to enable in the server for CSS to work.
But there is a
yeah, but under the
well,
same philosophy, they may need some setting on the client side, but I need to double check the code.
Okay.
Maybe that's.
I'll add a comment. I'll add a comment on this.
I don't think that should belong to this PR. I think that qualifies another issue, and we can discuss that in the issue. In order to, you know, make
right. No,
I'm
not saying anything should be changed, but I just want to clarify: is that still needed for all this information to show up or not? Right. Okay. Yeah.
I need to double check. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And okay. Does anybody else have any issues to discuss this meeting? Okay, so if there's nothing else, I guess we may be ready to leave a little early. I will follow up on that backup describe comment about the size. And we'll comment on the PR for that as well. Okay. So last chance if anyone has an issue to discuss, otherwise we will wrap this up. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us. Next week we'll have the call at the Beijing centric time zone as usual, and we'll see you then.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.